Hey everybody, welcome back to We the Dreamers. If you've ever wanted to make over a pantry or just transform a dysfunctional closet into a beautifully organized storage space where you can actually find everything, you're gonna love this video. This is part 3 of my Extreme Pantry Makeover series, and today I'm revealing the final before and after transformation. I'm also gonna walk you through how I made a custom brass curtain rod and sewed pinch pleat curtain panels to give this mini butler's pantry the perfect finishing touch, and also to hide all of the stuff that we didn't want to store out in the open. So let's dive into it. In part 1, I gave some background on why the space wasn't working. I cleared out the entire closet and I painted the whole space to match my wallpaper background. In part 2, we installed the wallpaper and also the custom closet shelves, making one of them at counter height out of butcher block and the rest to match the wallpaper background. And now for part 3. We'll make a custom brass curtain rod to go under the butcher block countertop to hold the pinch pleated curtain panels, which I'll show you how I designed and sewed, and then we'll put it all together and see the final transformation. First, I wanted to pinpoint the right fabric to make the curtain panels. I knew that I wanted something in a linen material because I just love the way it looks when it wears in, and it felt like that texture would really work well with our home's kind of bohemian bungalow style. Since it's such a small space, the good news was that I would only need about 3 yards of fabric total. I figured this amount out after Googling around how to calculate how much fabric you'll need when you're making a pinch pleated curtain. The bad news is that linen is weirdly expensive, even in small amounts. I had this idea in my head that a gingham pattern would be really cute in here, and I found this earthy checked gingham from Serena and Lily that looked like it would be a perfect complement to my wallpaper. The earthy tone in it was almost exactly the same color as the wallpaper background, so I ordered a sample of that fabric, but I also ordered a gingham patterned flat linen sheet from a bedding company called Piglet in Bed that would have been enough fabric for my project, and it was about half the price of 3 yards of the Serena and Lily linen. And I love it, but I think it's too magenta. You know, I was gonna cut it in half and I think it was gonna be more than enough, but I've had the hardest time finding a linen gingham sheet in this color. So I'm gonna go with the Serena and Lily. It's like a perfect match. Next, we had to come up with a way to make the curtain rod. So full disclosure, I'm not sure if my method was necessarily the simplest way we could have gone. So it's definitely possible that you could make something similar out of simpler or cheaper materials. I knew that I wanted the rod to be brass colored, so I started out by searching the internet for skinny brass curtain rods. So what I hope is the final piece of the puzzle for the little skirt curtain rod situation that I'm kind of tooling together just arrived. I considered going with something designed for cafe curtains, but I was a little worried that those rods might be a bit too flimsy and I didn't want the rod to sag in the middle from the weight of my fabric. I ended up finding a 3/4 inch thick brass curtain rod from Ballard Designs that was on a pretty good sale, and by coincidence, I found out that Ballard Designs also makes these cool corner connector pieces for curtain rods, ones that need to turn a corner. And since my skirt was gonna be in a U shape on 3 sides of the pantry, I thought those corner connectors would be a really simple way to deal with those 2 corners that I wanted my curtain rod to be able to round in a seamless way. To top it off, the same company also makes these matching brass curtain rings, which are designed to fit their 3/4 inch curtain rods. So I thought that would be perfect for hooking my pleater hooks onto and for hanging the curtains. So I ended up ordering 2 of the smallest size 3/4 inch brass curtain rods. I think they're 28 to 48 inches adjustable. I ordered 2 corner connectors and 2 packs of curtain rings. I ended up only needing about 13 curtain rings, less than I anticipated. So the longest side of my curtain rod, the one that runs parallel to the back wall of the pantry, was going to need to be about 33 inches long. So that 28 to 48 inch curtain rod was perfect in that spot. I planned to cut the second curtain rod that I ordered in half with a jigsaw and then just use the 2 halves to connect them to the long one via the corner connectors. But I still had to figure out how I was gonna hold the whole curtain rod apparatus down from the butcher block. The hardware that came with these curtain rods, it's really pretty, but it's just too long. Like, if I do this and I drill these into the bottom of the butcher block, like here you can see, this would just make the railing and the skirt sit way too low. And so I've tried to go back and forth and think, could I, you know, attach a piece of wood here and do this and sit, and that's a little bit better, but then that makes my shelf less functional. So basically I was like, okay, I have to have a different solution for holding the curtain rod, and I want it to be something pretty that hopefully is, you know, matching the gold color of the curtain rod. So I found this little Etsy shop. These are designed to fit, I think it's supposed to fit up to a 1-inch thick piece of rope for like a little rope railing. I don't know, like a boat club or like even like a nautical themed restaurant or something. This shop sells stuff that is supposed to sort of like hardware that is supposed to be for creating those rope railings. And so I was like, okay, my curtain rod diameter is 3/4 of an inch. So maybe this will work. So here is a comparison side by side of the curtain hardware and this thing. And so moment of truth, let's see, does this guy fit the curtain rod? Not easy to do this one-handed. Yes, it does. Oh, and it looks cute. I mean, the brass matches pretty darn well. In order to hold that curtain rod down from the butcher block with that hardware, we mounted that rope hardware to 2 wooden blocks, and then we secured those blocks to the underside of the butcher block in the corners so they could receive the curtain rod corner connectors.
That's kind of splitting the difference.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're talking about.
Gotta get some gloves that are not too, I have really long fingers, but these must be like Brett's or something. Buy some children's construction gloves.
Along the grain of wood, if you cut enough things or drill enough holes,
it's gonna want to
split the wood.
Oh, I see. So yeah, so you stagger them.
And then we're gonna countersink those. And then we're going to run screws up from the bottom.
After we cut the second curtain rod in half and cut those halves down to size for the left and right sides, we still had to figure out how to hold those ends down from the counter because the rope rings here wouldn't have allowed the curtain to go all the way to the wall. So we needed a different solution. So now we just have to solve how we're...
Is that about?
My dad ended up coming up with a really smart idea involving some 1.5-inch corner braces. He just used some simple machine screws and matching nuts to arrange the braces in a way where they could span the distance down from the butcher block and meet the location that we needed to support the rods. Then to attach the curtain rod end cap, we just drilled a hole into the end cap and attached it to the corner brace with a screw. We've got this back bar set up with the corner connectors. We've got one of these in because my dad very geniusly MacGyvered this situation, which, okay, hold on. Yes, so this one is going here and it's going to attach to the butcher block like this. It's gonna make it so that you can remove these rods and change out what is attached to them. Again, this may have been more complicated than it needed to be, but I absolutely love how it looks because it basically disappears back there. And I also love that the corner brace solution allows the curtain ring to go all the way to the wall. And it also technically allows me to remove the rods and change out the number of rings on it if I really need to. I just need to take it out from the butcher block and then drill it back in. With the curtain rod installed, it was time to sew the curtain panels. So I am a total beginner seamstress, and so I was pretty intimidated by this, but after watching a bunch of tutorials, I decided to give it a shot and was honestly surprised at how easy it was to make pinch pleated curtains with pleater tape. So as I was looking into different possible ways to sew this curtain, this little skirt for the pantry, I bought some of this pleater tape. I just got this on Amazon. It was like a set with some pleater hooks or drapery hooks. And I really love the look of like pleated linen curtains. I wouldn't even call myself a beginner seamstress. I truly have very little clue what I'm doing. So I've been watching tutorials like crazy. I only have 3 yards of fabric, and so I have to really be careful to make sure I leave myself enough to make 3 panels. And so a lot of that depends on how you place these little drapery hooks within the pleat tape. I'll link the pleater tape that I bought from Amazon for this project in the description, but there are tons of different kinds and sizes out there. The trickiest part was determining how much tape to use and how much the tape was going to scrunch up and shrink the length of the fabric. The good thing about pleater tape is that you have some control over that based on how far apart you decide to make your pleats using the pleater hooks. Trying to do my best of calculating how much of this pleater tape I'm gonna need. Before I cut the fabric and like sewed the side seams, basically I just took these little pleater hooks and I tried like a bunch of different configurations to see what I think I like and also what I think I have enough fabric for, because obviously, as you can imagine, the more you scrunch this stuff together, the more fabric you need. So it really takes up a lot of fabric if you do a bunch of pleats. And so I think I found a good middle ground, putting all 4 prongs of these little drapery hooks into 4 separate little pockets and then skipping 2. I just figured out how many pleats I wanted and how much length of tape and fabric that would translate to when not pleated by messing around with the hooks and the roll of tape and then hanging just the tape and the hooks up on the curtain rod to see how it looked. Then I would take the hooks out of the tape and lay the tape out flat on the floor. Then I would just measure that measurement and cut my fabric to that size with a little extra on each side for the seams. Once I had those measurements down, I cut and pressed my fabric, and then I sewed about a 1/4 inch side seam, top seam, and bottom seam to get a finished looking edge all around. Before I press the side seams here, I'm just pinning them loosely because the fabric is like upholstery weight linen, which is not as easy to just bend and press exactly where you want to, especially just because of my weird setup here with this half broken ironing board. My first side seam done. I know this is probably funny to anyone who's like even a basic seamstress, but I really don't know what I'm doing. So it's nice because it's like geometric. So it's very, very easy to have like a cheat sheet in terms of what a straight line is. Next, I took the finished top edge and folded it down again to be just a bit thicker than the pleater tape itself. Then I pinned the tape to the fabric. So I'm pinning the pleater tape to the top of the curtain, and I'm trying to make sure that the spacing is somewhat even. I'm a little worried about sewing through all of this stuff together because it's kind of thick, but yeah, I gotta get this a little bit evened out though. It's not quite even on the end. I pressed the top again with the pleater tape on it, and then I sewed the tape onto the panel. I put my hooks in and I hung up the first panel to make sure it looked right. Well, I've officially sewn on the first piece of pleater tape, and now it's the moment of truth before I hem the bottom. So far, so good. I really, for not knowing what the hell I'm doing, I'm happy with how it looks so far. It's really fun, just even now before I've hemmed it, to see how it moves. Like, it's very pretty, but it also feels very practical. And then I pinned the fabric at the bottom so the curtain would just kiss the floor. The toughest part about determining the hem in a 100-year-old house is that the floors are absolutely not even whatsoever. I'm not gonna worry about it, but somewhere in that vicinity. I decided to make a thick bottom hem on these panels so that the curtains would have a decent amount of structure to them and so that they would hang well, which meant I used about 8 inches of fabric folded in half on the bottom. Folded up to there once and then once again so that it's a nice thick 4-inch hem. I absolutely love how this curtain turned out, and I was honestly very surprised that I was able to make this myself with so little sewing experience. It's so awesome to have the ability to hide whatever we need to behind these curtains. These bottom shelves are a great spot for canned food, for dog food and dog treats. Our shop vac lives back here in the corner. Our Wi-Fi, which is a total messy tangle of cords, just lives back here and we don't have to look at it. And there's a bunch of other random stuff back there that doesn't look great aesthetically when it's out in the open. I also just really love the texture that the fabric adds to the space. The linen and the print and the colors just seem to work really well in here with the butcher block, with the brass and the wallpaper, and it just softens up the space in a way that I really love. With all the components of the pantry finished, all that was left to do was to decant everything into containers and decide how to organize. I'm gonna make another video all about how I organized the space and the different types of food and how I decided to group things together so we could find them easily. But for now, let's just admire the major transformation that this space has undergone over the course of this project. Absolutely love how this project turned out. I'm thrilled with the result, and I just really love having a dedicated pantry area. If you remember, if you've been following from the beginning of this project, all my vlogs, we just had pantry food items stored in a million different random locations in our kitchen because this closet had not been set up in a way that would really accommodate all of these things in one place. The storage solutions we had in here just didn't work and it was a huge mess. So it's a total game changer now. When I'm going to cook, I just know where I can find everything. We keep Nola's dog food in here and her dog treats, and it's truly just a joyful experience to go in here every day and be able to really use this closet to its fullest potential. One of my favorite finishing touches in this space is this really cute brass swivel hook set from Rejuvenation that we installed under one of the shelves. I love everything Rejuvenation makes. This is an unlacquered brass, so it will patina over time, which I think will be really beautiful in here. And I just love being able to hang anything from an espresso cup that we bought in Tuscany years ago to fresh herbs and measuring spoons. It's just something that really makes me smile every time I open the door. I found a really beautiful antique oil painting at the Rose Bowl Flea Market here in LA from a French seller who had a bunch of really cool items that she had just brought back from Paris. So that felt like the perfect finishing touch to add a little bit of decor to this space that's mostly functional, but also really beautiful. I also really love this matching bread basket that I created a cover for out of the leftover fabric that I made the curtains out of. It really is fun to repeat that pattern, and it's nice to have another place to just hide whatever I want in there without having to worry if it looks nice. Now, I actually prefer to have the pantry door open most of the time because I love being able to just peek in there and see all of the containers and all the cute stuff arranged and organized in a way that I can find everything. It's really one of my favorite projects that we've ever done. I'd love to hear from all of you in the comments. Have you ever done a pantry makeover or just transformed a closet that wasn't working the way mine wasn't? I'd also love to hear your ideas on what kind of project I should take on next, so let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for more videos about living well in your home and your headspace. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.